next up, it's the importance of company culture in the iGaming industry. We have three great panelists here. So yeah, we will be discussing company culture and like, you ever noticed how these days everybody has a company culture, you know, like it's like a commercial. Like they got a mission, a core value, statements, team building experiences. They say we're not just a business, we're a family. So like you need to ask these guys that, does that mean I need to avoid you during the holidays as well if you're my family? So kicking off on this note, I would like to introduce the panelists. Nana Schneider, HR director at Betbazar. Hi, Nana. It's nice to meet you.
Hello. Pleasure.
Tom Galanis, CEO at Tag Media and First Look Games. Hi, Tom. It's nice to see you again.
Hey, Zoltán. Yeah, good to see you too.
Kevin Perks, international recruiter at Kaizen. Kevin, nice to meet you.
Hi. Hi, guys.
All right. So we dive directly into the introduction part because I just want our audience to get to know you if they don't already. So Nana, please do a short introduction about yourself and maybe say a few words about the core values at Betbazar.
Well, as you already mentioned, I'm an HRD at the company, and I'm enjoying being in this position very much because I suppose it is a vital position in the team as well as many others. But what is important when we talk about people is to shape the culture, as this is our topic today. The core values are simple, as in decent humanity, humane society, trust, truth, flexibility, and respect. I think in Betbazar we stick to this at first glance simple values, and we try to teach people about them, everyone who joins the team, if to put it shortly.
All right, thank you. Tom.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tom Galanis. I'm CEO of Tag Media and First Look Games. Both businesses have been in existence for, well, respectively, 14 years and 5 years. And just to sort of, for me, it's a great honor to be on this panel as a business owner alongside a couple of great superstars who work in the HR game. And I guess the reason I wanted to be part of this is I guess, to just talk through how our business has evolved culturally. And you're just harking back to your question to Nana around some company values. Now, as a small startup business 14 years ago, obviously you read business mantras around, how you should set up a business, et cetera, et cetera. And I guess that back in those days, company culture really wasn't much of a concept, or at least not as visible as it is now, as important it is now to employees. And I came up with 3 sort of guiding principles for the business. And they weren't really values, I wouldn't suggest. It was really what we did as a business, which was raising standards, affecting change, and delivering results. As a marketing agency, as we were at the time, those seem sort of logical things. But they're very much geared to the success of our clients, not really thinking too much about the core values of our business and, I guess, guiding principles by which the staff that we had sort of live by. And as we've grown quite significantly in the last couple of years, from being a very small sort of 5-person company to, I guess, comparatively to a lot of businesses, still quite small, but 35 people. That jump has meant that we've had to do things differently. And we are a fully remote business, or 2 fully remote businesses. And yeah, a lot of soul searching went on within the leadership executive. And we very much wanted to present ourselves, I guess, to the world as a business that, I guess, lived truly by those 3 principles I mentioned. And that's kind of been our sort of North Star, if you will, ever since. And, company culture in a remote business, we can talk about that, is absolutely vital to obviously hiring and retaining staff, but I think also to convey your reason why raison d'etre as a business to potential clients.
All right, Kevin.
Hi guys, thanks very much for having me today. Appreciate being here. Van Kaizen, that's our firm. We are specialist recruiters, headhunters, really. We operate pretty much exclusively in the iGaming industry. I'd say 80% of what we do is in the iGaming industry. We've grown up really quickly over the last 3.5, 4 years. We've now got a presence in 14 different countries around the world. And I guess the really interesting part is that we represent somewhere between 140 and 150 different clients. We recruit for all of them. They're spread globally. So that gives us a pretty unique insight into attracting, retaining staff for various clients. In terms of our core values, we operate a very unique model in our recruitment business, in that all of our consultants are not employees. They're all self-employed individuals operating under the same banner. So a big thing about the way we operate is trust. Each of us is just trusted to get on, deliver what we need to deliver. And that's, I think, as we go on to discuss company culture, trust for me is a big part of that. And I'm sure I'll get a chance to elaborate as we go on through these discussions.
All right, so we have a pretty much mixed bunch here with different experiences, and that's how awesome this panel is going to be. So first question is for everyone. How important is creating a positive company culture and attracting and retaining talent? Nana, you go first.
Positive, you say?
Yeah. Avoiding each other during the holidays, let's say.
I guess if you look at the world in current times, what's happening all over the globe, the changes, the climate, the wars, etc. I suppose the word positive should be somehow tattooed on our foreheads all over the places. I guess it's important because you spend a lot of time at your working place, and maybe most of your time, and the emotions you experience there, I guess, is a part of your motivation as well. So if to create the right environment for the team, meaning to create the possibility and the desire to develop, desire to grow, to strive for changes, to be open-minded for any kind of new things that the company is trying to introduce you with. I guess it is important, positive. If again, to put it shortly, it is very important because we all have our lives besides work, and we come to work with different moods and in different states of mind sometimes. And the team that surrounds you at work can easily help you to get you out of your negative state of mind and maybe transfer it and change it into the positive one, which will be very mutually beneficial for you and the company.
All right. Yeah. Don?
Well, I guess I agree absolutely with what Nana said. I guess, practically, having a strong company culture, COVID obviously changed a lot for most businesses. Either temporarily or permanently, a lot of businesses have gone fully remote or at least hybrid. And that obviously brings about challenges. One thing that we've had to work very hard on as we've grown is making sure that interaction, communication is absolutely spot on. But obviously what sits behind that is the emotive side of a company culture. Something that, even though we're not spending time together in offices, not speaking to each other, we've got team members who have never met, which I always find kind of crazy. But when you're looking to hire and to retain staff, particularly in this industry, where really your talent pools tend to exist in very high density locations like Malta, where traditionally, and Kevin will probably speak better to this than I can, but turnover of staff has historically been incredibly high, and obviously the way salaries and the industry has grown accordingly at that pace, retaining, I guess, junior mid-level staff is very, very difficult, and you can't do so by simply paying them more. That's not financially viable for most businesses. So I think you really have to have something that sits behind the business, overarching it, that I guess we define as company culture, that motivates people to get out of bed in the morning, particularly if working remotely, and to step up and to self-start. These things are obviously key KPIs for any review meeting, but to be more than that, to grow as a business and to help your company and team develop, you have to have guiding principles that everybody buys into. And for me, that well, as a business, we can set that up. We can put the tools in place and working environment in place for that to materialize. But really, of course, it's the staff that drive and develop the company culture, and that's vital.
So yeah, it's not about ping pong tables and flip flops and gluten-free granola and stuff like that. Because
the physical stuff has their place, and I think it is attractive to a certain type of person. But I think if you want, and it depends on your hiring policy and what you're trying to achieve. But if you have a strong company culture that people buy into, you're not having to outbid people on salaries. Well, of course, that goes a long way to people's final decision making. But in terms of retaining them, those, I guess, physical mod-con, millennial attracting items like ping pong tables and free beer Fridays and whatnot, they're not enough these days. I think particularly for Gen X and Gen Z people, you really need to offer something emotive, give them a reason for wanting to work with you.
Yeah, because sooner or later, like I said during the first session, the AI is going to take over your role, and maybe the coffee machine will be promoted first, not you, because you're playing around ping pong and stuff like that. So Kevin, what's your experience on that?
Yeah, it's interesting, a very interesting point. I mean, bear in mind, I've been doing this for 4 years now, and I've never once been asked by a candidate, has the client got a ping pong table? Not once. No,
Is that because it's assumed?
I've never been asked once whether they've got a coffee machine, whether they have a breakout room.
Maybe they were shy to ask.
Yeah, maybe.
It's a given.
But what they do ask all of the time, and it's kind of shifted a little bit, but it used to be, what's the salary range? What do the benefits look like? And that used to be, the core questions. Now, and I don't know whether this is COVID or related or not, or whether it's just a sign of the times moving on. But now that, yes, the salary range is important. Yes, the benefits are important, but they're asking me, what's the company culture like? And that's a very difficult question to answer. But what they seem to be most interested in is it people-centric? Am I going to be looked after by this company? And I think what they mean by that is, am I going to be trusted to do my job? And trust is a word I'll use a lot today, I'm sure. Am I going to be able to develop personally? Am I going to learn? Am I going to be free to learn? Am I going to be free to make mistakes and not in fear of my job? It comes down to trust. And I think the original question was about attracting and retaining, and the role culture plays in that. Well, they're quite different things, because to attract based on culture, it's a marketing exercise, right? Everyone can say, I've got a brilliant culture because of this, this, and this. And of course, most candidates realize that that's a marketing exercise. So they're looking for other signs of what the culture is like. And there's really only one way they can do that. Well, perhaps two, if they know someone working in the business and they can get an honest opinion. But the real indicator for me is the recruitment process, because if that's where you first establish a relationship, and that's where trust comes into it. So if you're not going back to candidates with feedback, even to reject them from the process, if you're not doing that, you're already breaking trust. If they've been interviewed and you said you'll get back to them in a week, and you're not getting back to them in a week, you're breaking trust. So these are the indicators that I think candidates will use to determine how the internal culture looks like. If you're not looking after the candidate in that process, it's a pretty good sign that you're not going to look after them in terms of the internal culture going on an onward journey. And I think equally, if they buy into the marketing and think, yes, we've got this company's got a great culture, I'm joining, they're made an offer, they join, and then the culture transpires to be something very different from the marketing, then you've seriously eroded that person's trust. And that's the wrong way to start any type of relationship. So to answer the question, positive culture is critical in both attracting and retaining. And I'm sure we'll come on to discuss what a people-centric culture might look like. But to go back to the original point, no one has ever asked me for a foosball table, ever.
Yeah, maybe Nana has one in their office, as I saw from her body language, and most probably some coffee machines and snacks and free Fridays with flip-flops and stuff like that. So
by the way, I don't mean to say that it's not a nice to have.
Yeah,
of course it's a nice to have, but it's not. That's not going to attract talent.
Exactly.
I agree completely with Kevin. Sorry to interrupt you, and I wanted to say it's what you mentioned, Kevin. It's so interesting what people ask nowadays when they are having an interview, and I have noticed myself that a lot of people ask about benefits in terms of the development. Will I be able to go to courses? Will I be able to have another education? Will I have a mentor? So
that's good.
Yeah.
So Nana, sticking to you, asking you if you guys have any people working remotely or hybrid?
Yeah, we have.
All right.
Put it shortly.
So I guess this question is for everyone again. In regards to the workforce now being spread across the world, and then many more people are starting to work hybrid and remotely. What roles company culture have to play in the modern working environment?
I'm answering first. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. As we all, I think we're getting used to remote work after the COVID. I think we all have done our homework in terms of how to maintain workforce and how to keep people motivated, how keep people united during not working in the office. We have a couple of offices around the world, and we have people working remotely from their homes as well. And somehow we try to make all of our co-workers feel like we work together, we are united. No, even if you work far away from us physically, it doesn't mean you are far away from us. We are here. We have mutual calls, we have mutual chats, we have mutual Friday calls sometimes with a couple of drinks, etc. We try to be in each other's lives. Of course, we are very careful with the borders about private life. We do not overcross it. But if somebody has a birthday or an important event in the life, we celebrate it all together. We put the team in the picture of what's happening in the lives of our workers. It was a little, I would say, peculiar when it comes to control of people who work remotely. First, it's a little scary at first. You start thinking, how to remain positive and how to remain decent and not very, I don't know, aggressive in terms of, have you done this task? Is this task done? What are you doing? Are you sleeping? Are you eating? Are you still in bed, working from bed? Is this serious? Not serious? So in terms of controlling people, we completely let our hands up. We have decided that in Betbazar, we have grown-up people working together for doing what they love and sticking to our values. As I said before, as I mentioned, we trust each other and we respect each other. There is no place for lying or for finding an excuse not to work or creating I'm sick, I'm sorry, I can't work today, which is not true. We stick to truth. Truth is our policy. We are far away from each other, but we are united by very, very serious and core values, and we stick to them. And this is how we manage. We see each other. We have team buildings. Sometimes we, for example, and the shows. We'll see our team in Barcelona very soon, and then in different places all over the world as well. So we try to see each other. I think it's important, even if we work all the time remotely. and we have different offices. I think it's nice. Maybe it's because I'm a people person. I like people. Maybe it's my influence. I don't know. But I think it's also important to have a possibility to see each other, to spend some time with each other, being in one country, in one city.
Yeah, because it's not like people are doing high fives in the office or doing fun things, and the other ones who are remotely are just like praying for their Wi-Fi not to disconnect during the Zoom meetings and stuff like that. So
I think, yeah, it's about learning. When you communicate with people, you can learn from each other a lot of things. Some people are more experienced, some people have different visions. It's all about this for me. I think if you have various points of view, this is how you move forward. This is how the broad-mindedness is very important. This is what I mean. And when you communicate with people, with your colleagues, this is how you get there.
All right. So Tom, are you like Elon Musk? Are you going to turn into Elon Musk someday and say everybody has to go to one office and work there, no more remote stuff?
I like to think I'm nothing like Elon Musk, so you don't have his money. But just to echo what Nana says, really, working together is all about connections. Establishing connections, maintaining connection, to be as effective as a team, as a company as possible. And I've worked in office environments where clearly it's designed to allow you to communicate, connect with people around you. And there's no doubt about it that being in an office environment, that sort of learning by osmosis, connecting, subliminally, is lacking in a remote environment. You really have to lean on, I guess, the company culture to ensure that people understand why they're joining the company in the first place. What is convincing them about the interview process, as Kevin said. They really have to buy into the environment. Now, I've worked in offices where I guess you go to the interview and all looks good on paper. It's a reputable company, but actually the office environment's a little bit toxic. And a lot of businesses can, I guess, exist within that. It's a different mentality working in that sort of environment, of course. But it is possible for the business to succeed nonetheless. Whereas in a fully remote business as we are, when you can only connect, I guess, over video call or through Messenger, or on occasions like Nana, when we meet up at conferences, but that's not all the team. Having something that is truly authentic, that gives you a reason, as I said earlier, to get out of bed, to not lie in and work from your bed, to get up and go and really work as a team and feel your role within that team. Something that overarches anything is company culture. And that's what drives connections, both internally and externally with our clients and partners.
Kevin, how is it looking on your side?
Yeah, that was very interesting, Tom. I picked up on something you mentioned in your introduction, Tom, and that was you seem to have clearly defined what your business stands for. And I think that's, for me, that's the definition of company culture, what the business stands for. And then, of course, how you permeate that through the rest of the workforce is difficult. I mean, it's a difficult thing to do, but if it's front and center of everyone's minds, then it should be achievable. I think the question is how does that work in today's culture when people are remote? Well, I believe it's equally important in a office environment to a remote environment. The culture is key. And I think ultimately, it just comes down to communication. It probably requires more communication on a more frequent basis in a remote setting to ensure your culture is instilled throughout than it perhaps does in an office environment when you're all together and you're living and breathing it. So to answer the question, the positive culture is equally important in both environments, but it's probably harder to deliver in a remote environment. So it requires a bigger effort, and not just at the top level of the organization, but particularly middle management. I mean, I feel ultimately middle managers have a bigger role to play almost in the delivery of company culture than perhaps senior managers, because they have the most interaction with most of the people. Yeah, I hope that answers the question.
All right. So yeah, it actually leads me to my next question, which is about the challenges of promoting hybrid or remote workforce and company culture. So Nana, what are your experiences in this when promoting your company?
Interesting question. Can you maybe shape it once again?
Yeah, so basically, what are your biggest challenges in promoting your company culture with hybrid or remote workforces?
You mean, thank you. You mean within the team, or you mean
outside when
the
you're
media outside?
Media outside.
I think when it comes to promoting anything that connects to company culture, and I think Tom and Kevin understands me very well, it every word you're using needs to be taken into careful consideration, because words are very easily can be misinterpreted, and you should stick to very clear messages, very clear rules, clear values, things that people can understand. I think the challenge is naturally that everyone is different. Everyone has different background. We come from different families, schools, education, countries, and somehow we find ourselves in wonderful teams of Nana, Kevin, and Tom, for example, and how to make it work, how to make all of us follow the same rules, respect them. I guess the challenge is to unite people and to share this message all over your team. If you ask me, I'd stick to democracy policy. I like when people are asked. I like when there are votes. I like when people are negotiating and discussing things, even when it comes to company policy, even when it comes to amounts of holidays per year, what national holidays we celebrate here and there. And since we have a lot of people working for us all over the world, people are from different countries, they have different holidays. I have to tell you, some countries have too many national holidays.
Tell me about it.
I disagree.
So you have to find a common ground. It comes from a dialogue. This is what challenge is. Dialogue between company and between workers and with a moderator. And if it's done mildly and wisely and with respect, I think there will be a few challenges left.
All right, Tom?
I think being open and honest is probably the best thing to do here. I think when it's all very good having a strong guiding principle, company values, mission statement, whatever you want to call it, as I think we do at Tag Media and First League Games. But remaining true to them when times get tough is challenging. It is challenging. And I think, if they're strong enough, then you manage to do it. But, as a business owner, as our business, every business goes through highs and lows. When those low moments come as a business or for individuals within the business, being able to visualize and hark back to those values and maintain them is critical to the company culture. Because it's all well and good having something, this North Star I referred to earlier, as long as you remember to follow it all the time. And that is our biggest challenge, and mine as a business owner, certainly mine. I think it goes back to Kevin's point around trusting individuals within the business. For me as a business leader, trusting, I guess, everybody who works with me to share that vision. And even though, but I guess the biggest challenge is, to Kevin's point, is when you hire somebody, they buy into the company culture, and I hope in our case that they really truly are buying into that. I think generally they are, but maintaining it in the challenging times, and that we may have people who join us during those challenging times. They might not see this living, breathing, authentic culture that they've bought into straight away, but making sure they see it pretty damn quickly is very important. I think that's vital, and from our perspective, half of our business is an agency. We have a scheme, I'm going to talk a little bit about it now, so forgive me, called This Year's Rule at Tag Media. And for me, it was vital. I did a bit of soul searching. At the end of it, I've been working in the gambling industry for 18 years now. I didn't really intend to stay working in the gambling industry for that long. When I first started, I'm probably never going to leave now. But I did have visions of doing something a bit more philanthropic, a bit more positive for the world, and let's face it, gambling really is. And so I really wanted to make sure that, as a business and as an employer, we gave everybody in the team an opportunity to do good within their role. So we set up this initiative called This Year's Rule. It's called This Year's Rule because this year, all employees and contractors in the business are entitled to take between 20 and 23% of their contracted hours with the business, so whether full-time or part-time, to go and do good in the world, in the communities around them. And that, as an international company, lives and allows us to live and breathe our values. So even though individually and as a team, we may go through some hard times, seeing pictures of my team, running dog sanctuaries in Malta, or working in community centres in Scotland, or running soup kitchens in Cape Town. One, it shows that collectively, individually, we are doing good, and collectively we are doing more than promoting gambling, which is what fundamentally we do as a business. And in those low moments when I guess our values maybe dwindle a little bit in favour of, well, we need to get results today, guys. There's always these. We've got various we're proficient users of Slack, like most remote businesses. Seeing these images and videos come through is, for me, it reinvigorates our company culture every single day that we see it. And of course, it is every single day that we see it, given the amount of time we give up. But again, a challenge behind that as an agency is obviously we've got clients who expect us to be available all the time. So actually, for them, I don't know whether our clients ever buy into our principles. That's less important to me than the staff, obviously. But of course, it's vital that they understand what we're about and why we exist and what motivates the team, and why, as a fully remote business spread all around the world in 5 continents, we can deliver for them nonetheless.
Right, Kevin?
Yeah, that's interesting, Tom. That's a really nice idea. I really like it. Certainly, if I was doing your recruitment for you, that's something I'd be pushing when I'm speaking to potential candidates, without a shadow of a doubt. Really nice idea. I think to try and go back to the question, and excuse any background noise, I'm actually in a hotel lobby, which isn't a great place for this course, so forgive me.
No worries.
If we broadly accept that a positive culture is a people-centric culture, that in which people are trusted to do their job, that they trust the company to give feedback quickly, meaningfully, both positive and negative. They're not in fear. They're free to make mistakes and learn. If we accept all that as a positive culture, then I think what becomes interesting is, well, who's responsible for it? And I think a little while ago, back in the day, I was going to say, but maybe a few years ago, it used to be that the CEO would sit down with their HR, define the values, roll them out. All the managers would understand, agree, buy in, and then they'd all move on to the next project. And 12 months later, maybe there would a survey would go out and they would check up on people, and that was the extent of it. But I think really where we are now is that every single person in the organization needs to take responsibility for that culture. I don't think it can be a CEO responsibility on its own. It has to be everyone, and everyone has to be, responsible for creating that safe environment, if you like. So then, I do feel for companies in the remote world, because that is going to be a harder job than in an office environment, because you just don't have as much interaction. And what I kind of have a lot of sympathy for the most junior employees, because if that communication isn't very frequent all the way down the chain, then they are sort of by default going to become slightly removed from the culture. So it takes a lot of hard work from everyone in the business to deliver a positive culture. I have no doubt about that. And perhaps a good litmus test might be, you know, if you ask a senior manager what your company stands for, you'll probably get the answer you expect. But if you ask the most junior employee what your company culture stands for, you might not get the same answer, which, you know, I would use that as a test as to where you are with your culture and whether, you know, it's everyone really is taking responsibility for it. So yeah, in a remote environment, it is difficult, but it's not impossible. It's just more frequent communication and you know, face to face is definitely better than on the end of a telephone. You know, body language plays a big thing and big part in these kind of conversations. So yeah, it's definitely challenging. It's definitely achievable, but it requires big effort. And my point is not just big effort at the top, but big effort throughout the organization. So everyone has to understand that they are responsible for company culture.
Yeah, so sticking into like the leadership roles and hierarchies in the workplace, in the remote environment, like back in the days, you know who the boss was, right? You got the guy with the corner office, big desk, closed door, you knew that where your place is because of your square footage of your workspace and stuff like that. But now with online working, remote working, hybrid workings, like the boss is the one who knows how to navigate the Slack channel or maybe doing the virtual breakout session and stuff like that. So we're measuring leadership and hierarchy by the strength of your Wi-Fi signal, most probably, or the strength of your internet connection. So is an emphasis on company culture redefining traditional leadership roles and hierarchies in the workplace? Nana, what do you think about this?
It's interesting what you said, how everything's changing. I guess it's a rare thing now to have a boss sitting in the corner office, and everything has been rearranged so many times. I guess company culture plays a big role in leadership, if you ask me, and I agree with Kevin and Tom for sure that, as you both guys, you mentioned that it concerns everyone. Company culture concerns everyone. If you set up the tone, means you have to respect it, and everyone should keep up with and be on the same page with what has been agreed on. And if there are any changes, the same. Everyone should be aligned. I guess I remember I have been talking to my colleagues recently about it, that top management is important, of course, not only in terms of the business development, but also it's like people who you look up to in terms of your development, personal development as well. And if people who are in top management in the team don't follow the rules or neglect the company culture or come up with some sort of an excuses, it will be impossible for the rest of the people to stick to the rules. It would lose sense completely. I guess the leader in the team is the person who believes in the rules that have been set up and agreed upon. I'm not sure I answered your question correctly, but if you would like me to add something,
no, it's good.
Let me know.
Tom?
No, that was a good answer for me. I'm with you on that. But I think, you know, having been working 18, 19 years in my career. And one thing, you know, my observation from, I guess, where I am now to my experience as a lower level employee when I first started out, is the requirement, particularly in remote environments, for leaders to be able to hone, develop, and I guess put front and center of their management style, the softer skills that certainly in my experience were definitely overlooked in office-centric environments I used to work in, 18, 19 years ago. And recognizing that it's pretty easy to spot that requirement in a remote business, particularly when you have younger people, less experienced people joining the company. So we made sure that from a leadership standpoint, we've implemented a training toolkit to support our leaders. We offer leadership training, which is very much geared towards personal development for that leader. And I think in the iGaming industry, one of my sort of eternal observations is obviously the fast-paced nature, the fast growth the industry has experienced. But certainly in the channel that we work in the affiliate space, you will see someone leap out of a customer service role, not to belittle it, but straight into an affiliate management role. Pretty significant job type, responsibilities within the business. It's probably never given the kudos within the hierarchy that it should be. All the way up, probably within 6 months, a year, I've seen it being given management roles within that team, and full budget responsibility beyond that. But looking at the management side, therefore, to my experience, growing up in this industry, has never been any, I worked at a couple of big organizations previously, but any real effort to develop people from being a salesperson into being a manager. The requirements for that differ hugely. And obviously when you throw in a remote environment, as Kevin pointed out, not being able to read body language in the same way over a video call as you might in person, obviously, that is hugely challenging. So what we've made sure we do at our companies is ensure that managers very much focus on the more pastoral side of running a team. And that, I quite often find myself on the phone, picking up, not all too often, I will stress, but when a team member is going through a stressful period of time, maybe there's a sense that they might be burning out. We work in a fast-paced world. It is vital that for us in our business, and any business really, that the leader, the manager in question,
give him more working hours.
Yeah, well, yes, it does. But there comes flexibility in the way we work.
Yeah.
But it's vital that each manager, and to Kevin's point, it's probably more important than middle management, really brings their sort of empathy A game to conversations, to dealings with their team. That is more so than ever vital. And for me, that defines a good leader these days as being empathetic. And if you don't have that in a remote world, you're really going to struggle to manage and lead.
All right, Kevin?
Yeah, I think Tom's just given the exact same answer as I was going to.
Sorry.
That's all right. That's all right. Just to add to that, hierarchy was part of the question. Clearly every organization has to have a hierarchy. People have to be responsible for other people. So I don't think, in today's remote world, it's really impacted on hierarchy structures. I think they have to be there. It's a necessity. But I do think, the soft skills that Tom just spoke about, particularly empathy, absolutely has to be there, and it has to be, the volume has to be turned up on it in a remote environment, without doubt. And one thing I've come across numerous times is good employees who are exceptional at their job being promoted to management positions, and they're being promoted to management positions because they're good at their job, not because they're good at managing people.
Exactly.
So they're suddenly just expected to be able to manage people and demonstrate empathy and create that safe environment for learning, development, etc., etc. And actually all they're focused on is delivery because that's what got them to that position.
Exactly.
So I often think, well, I almost feel sorry for those people because, they're just doing what they're used to doing, and no one's really giving them that support that actually, no, this job is now very different. So I think, again, it boils down to communication and promoting someone to that position of people manager, if you like. That requires a great deal of discussion. It shouldn't just be, oh, you've done well, here's your reward, because it might be that person really doesn't have the soft skills necessary to be able to deliver it. So, like everything I'm saying, I feel I'm kind of repeating the same themes, but in the remote environment, it's got to be communication, absolutely communication, and I think leadership generally is, it can be learned. It's not, I don't think it's one of those things you're either born with or not. You can learn it, but the importance of is self-awareness and being open to learn it and understanding the importance of it. And then that kind of links back to culture ultimately, in that everyone in the organization has to be responsible for it. I am repeating myself, and I'm probably repeating what Tom just said, but that's my belief. So I think we're pretty aligned on that, Tom.
Yeah,
so
I think we are, and I think you touched on the point around promoting. And I remember when I was junior, you looked at the level above. That for me was career development, was going to a higher paid job, without really understanding the full requirements of the job spec. But I see it time and time again in our industry. And I think we do collectively need to understand actually what career development means. It isn't about chasing the promotion. It's about, as individuals, flourishing in the role that you have and doing as good a job within that realm, and obviously progressing accordingly. Now, obviously, you've got to offer people within your business opportunities to grow, both personally, but also in terms of jobs as well. Expanding, it's easy to do that in a growing business. Of course, as you expand, you might have one person that either suited or not suited, and then obviously you'd hire a manager along. For me, it's always alongside. We do have hierarchies within the business, but as teams, there isn't. To use Nana's term, there's definitely a lot of democracy that we push for, and I think remote environments do promote that a bit more than the old school office environment. We do have that corner office, and do have maybe management sitting on the 5th floor. Having that vibe, it's the company culture fundamentally, where people are free to speak their mind, free to ask questions, free to ask to go on training courses. And of course, as a business, making those opportunities available to people is really important. But I guess what people truly want, obviously, yes, everybody wants more money. That's helpful. That's the capitalist world we live in. I think it's becoming less important to a certain degree to younger people. But what's probably more important is personal development, giving people the space to develop, their education in the job, within the company, the industry they work in. Learning is critical, but I like to think that what we've done with this year's Broad is give them space to grow individually. I think there's the recognition within a remote business is vital, that the benefit of having people globally and individually for them is to give them freedom to be themselves and show that. It's vital that they can show that, because not in an office environment where perhaps in a meeting you might talk over somebody, talk loudly and get your point across. It's very different in a remote space. So allowing people to grow personally and supporting them through that, all the way through their time with the business, from that initial interview phase all the way through. And for me, it's even as important when they come to leave the business. I want to go and see them do great things when they leave our business, because we recognize that if we do a good job, that's going to go happen. Hopefully not too often, but good people will leave. And for me, that is the ultimate sign of success really for our business, is see people go on to, I'll admit it, bigger and better things than our small business, and empowering to do that is critical.
All right. So next up,
I'm sorry, I'll just interrupt there if I may. I thought that was a brilliant summary. Like, you're the sort of company I want to recruit for, because that is what people are asking for out there.
You have each other's emails, right?
Yeah. We'll touch base. Sorry to interrupt.
No. I was just hooking you guys up already for All right. So next up, we're going to talk about the changes that companies can make to promote a more positive company culture. I don't think that it's just about the recruiting process, where you get asked about if you can handle stress during your job. I don't think you need to adapt the question now for the Gen Z. If you can maybe draft an email while your smoothie melts or stuff like that. So Nana, starting with you, what are some of the challenges that changes that companies can make to promote a more positive company culture?
I think, as I have said before, the communication and the observation is important. And even with the fully remote work, you talk to people, you have calls, you understand how the time changes and what people strive for. I wanted to say that observation and paying attention to people you work with is very important. And I have the best people here to discuss it, because we have recruitment and the CEO, and I understand that without these two people, it is impossible to create a team and to develop company culture as well. This is, I guess, I have a few examples with the employees, and like Tom said, about the empathy and how important it is, and the flexibility, and Kevin agrees. And we had some situations when people were not performing enough on the position that they had. And as I was new to this business and I was new to this position, and I thought performing is the key, it's so important. So the person is not performing, what should we do? I think fire, I think we need to say goodbye. And exactly, recruiter and the CEO, we had a talk, and I was informed, and I had a great lesson about how important it is to think broader and to understand if the person is not performing on this position, maybe on another position, he or she may perform better. And I learned that I think I can easily put it as a company culture as well, that we do not jump into any conclusions, we give chances, we observe, and we give time. I think it is very important when we have a remote colleagues, because when you are in the office, I don't want to say it's easier, but some of the things are discussed more. When you have coffee with colleagues, you discuss maybe clients, maybe new markets, maybe new products. You have this extra possibilities to exchange knowledge, exchange ideas, exchange news. When you are working remotely, you are in lack of this a little bit. And that is why it is important to give this extra time for people. The changes that we have implemented are meetings. We have calls all together. We discuss not only, it's not a reporting, like, okay, I did this and this, I'm planning this and this. We are discussing things. Okay, we have this client, I want to discuss. We have C-level, we have top management, we have juniors, we have middle positions, and all together. We are not afraid to discuss different things that may seem not as valuable as they are for some of people. If we are asked to discuss something, if we're asking questions, we do this. We meet in different events, like Tom said, maybe not all of the team, but usually it's sales and marketing, but we try to add more people. Now we're practicing other people from the team joining us. We're asking support team to come with us, for example. Then maybe we'll be trying we want our people to have multitasking, to try their hands in different things.
All right.
Yeah.
Tom?
Well, I think I can speak as a business that I feel we've done a good job around company culture as a collective. But what's vital, I mentioned earlier around, at times we lose sight of it. You can lose sight of it at any given moment when results are not happening the way you want them to. And one, you can always go back to, if your culture is strong enough, your vision, your values are strong enough, you'll go back to them, and your staff will sort of hark towards them, if you will. But I think it's also vital that, to Nana's point, that you take the space, take the time to reflect as a business, but also as a manager with your team. Patience is obviously critical. If your hiring process is spot on, 9 times out of 10 or 99 times out of 100, you've hired the right person at that time. So as a manager, go back to the point that I said earlier, that Nana's reiterated around empathy. It's not an employer or a manager's business to know the personal situation of every employee, but if you can foster relationships that get as far as you can to having that you'll never always be a friend first. Sometimes you'll be a manager first, but understanding why perhaps someone's performance is not where it was or not where it could be or should be. For me, the reaction must always be to support. That's your first go-to reaction. It's what must come across in that moment, and providing space and the support needed to help that person. I think if you all live and die to an extent by your company values and make sure they hold true, there's something to help guide that person through. It's not easy. So making sure, as I said, you're constantly reviewing that as a leadership group and individually. And for me, when we do our employee reviews, that is the most important thing, is understanding someone's happiness in the job, someone's ability to do that job with the space they have, make sure they have all they need to succeed, whether that's career development or space and time, because everybody goes through different circumstances. And we've got young parents in our team, we've got people who, I said, maximize the time we give them, and of course, we try not to view that in any negative way, and make sure that as a business we're giving people the space, but more importantly that our infrastructure is right for any given moment as times evolve. We've been through a hell of a challenging period over the last 4 years globally, and it continues, and probably only getting worse in many ways, but actually remaining positive and being able to thrive personally, which will allow obviously a person to contribute to a thriving team. It's challenging. So reflecting on those values, evolving those values if needed, but obviously what infrastructure and tools and management styles, the way we communicate, all of these things need to be reviewed fairly regularly, not every 6 months, but on an ongoing basis, certainly at a leadership level. If you haven't done that already, and your business is still driven by results, and that is your North Star as a business, you really do need to change that. Short-term gain, happy days, to hire a younger generation and to inspire them to do their best with you isn't going to work for forever, and you're going to have high turnover as a result. I will admit something as a business. Being a fully remote business, we have never hired somebody with no experience. I would love to be in a position to do that. It is challenging, and I can't imagine how I would have got on my first day in any job in the workplace if it was fully remote. That is, for us, a challenge we need to overcome. I want to be able to do that for various reasons, and I'm not sure what we have to do. So that's something as a leadership group we've got to change.
All right, Kevin.
Yeah. So I'll go back to my real area of expertise, which is recruitment and attraction of talent, right? And if we accept that candidates are looking for signs of what the internal culture is like, and they're ignoring the marketing because everyone has good marketing saying they've got a great company culture, then really their only lens into the internal culture is that recruitment process. So I would urge, everyone, and it's a bit of a hobby horse of mine, I'd urge everyone to look at that, in terms of being quick with your feedback, giving feedback to everyone. It doesn't have to be long. They just want to know, okay, you had someone better experience, fair enough. But, constantly giving that feedback, don't keep people waiting. It's that kind of sends the message, you're not that important to us. Even if you're not going forward with that candidate, you almost need to treat your recruitment process in the same way as you would your net promoter score. We're in a small industry, right? Relatively, it's a small industry. People talk, and that old rule sort of applies. If you have a positive experience, you're likely to share that with 6 people. If you have a negative experience, you're likely to share that with 15 or more people. So if you've had a poor experience in a recruitment process, even if you're not getting the job, you're going away and telling 15 people that that's poor. So you're actually undermining your own culture before you've even got there. So I think a lot of businesses underestimate the importance of that process, even if you're not hiring the person, because you can promote a positive culture externally more meaningfully through that process than you can through your marketing. And I think that's a really critical point.
All right. So thank you, guys. for these awesome inputs. And I would like to also give you the chance to have some closing remarks on this and maybe say a few words about why is having a strong company culture and identity important in such a competitive marketplace and industry, because Kevin mentioned that everybody has the marketing for their company, but what is important? Is it sticking to those rules that you have actually advertised and culture you have actually presented for the audience? And no.
As you mentioned yourself, luckily coffee machines have not substituted us yet. We are working with people. We are people. Company connects with clients through people. We find new products through people, new partnerships through people. And I guess this is what we should keep in mind, that as long as we maintain people relationship, as long as we have people in our teams and not coffee machines and vacuum cleaners, we must do our best to support our company culture and spread the word about how important it is. I think team is the biggest value of the company. Sometimes not even the product. With the right people and the right team, you can launch any business. You can stop doing one thing and start doing another thing. This is what I would like to cross the line with, and say a few words. I would like to say thank you very much for introducing, thanks to this panel, introducing me to Kevin and Tom. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you guys with such professionals. I am just 3 years in the industry, so I'm learning a lot, and I'm very grateful that I had a chance today to hear you and to participate with you guys in this panel.
Tom?
Yeah, feelings mutual, Nana. I really enjoyed this session. Usually I'm on panels talking about affiliate marketing, which I love, obviously, but for me as a business owner, this has been the most enjoyable panel session I've ever done. And Zoltán will tell you I've done quite a few, because it's given me an opportunity to put across what the reason that I want to work, the reason I want to live, frankly. And it's not, it sounds airy-fairy, of course, but it's not about making the money. We only get one shot around this in life, and I want to make sure that the people I spend my time with, and I want to make sure that for them the feeling's mutual. Working, because of course you spend most of your time working in your life, you're having fun when you're doing it, and it's satisfying, and you're growing, and you can feel fulfilled in that. And for me, that's why having a strong company culture is vital, because I don't see any other way. What's the fun in it? Being visible is no good, and if it lines some business owners' pockets, it's good for them. If it was me in that, and I've done okay, but for me, the satisfaction I get of watching my team grow, both in terms of size, but more importantly in terms of individual personalities and skills, that for me is a sign of success. That's how we measure a success at Tech Media and Person Games, and I would love every business to have that same approach. Sadly, I don't think that will ever be the case, but for me, that is why having a company culture is the only option. The strong company culture is the only option, putting that front and center of everything we do. For me, there's no other way. What the hell are we doing? So, yeah, for me, I've loved this panel, and I appreciate the opportunity, Zoltán, to meet Nana and Kevin. I'm sure we'll all talk more after this. Yeah, it's been great. Thank you.
All right, Kevin, knock it out of the ballpark.
Well, look, I'll just echo what everyone else has said. Thanks for having me. I've enjoyed it as well. It's been a pleasure to meet you all. Just to finish on company culture, the one point I just want to leave on is that everyone in an organization is responsible for the culture. Okay, yes, it's set from the top, and the top has to live and breathe it. I think Tom obviously does a very good job of that. But everyone needs to take responsibility, and it needs to be made clear to everyone in the organization they're responsible for it, and then they need to be trusted to deliver it. So that would be my sort of closing remark. And yeah, just to say thanks again.
All right. So thank you everyone for tuning in, because we had around 250 viewers on YouTube, and most probably the recording will be even viewed by even more. So this has been part 1 of the day. We're going to be back this afternoon for Europe. with the Gaming Americas quarterly meetup. And for those who are just getting up in New York, we are going to be back shortly. All right, so thank you guys and take good care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.